broadcast was spreading station to station, like an infection across the nation. Though you know you can't stop it when you start.
Women think what you wear reflects on them. Women go to a party. If another woman has the same dress, night ruined. If I go to a party, some dude has the same shirt, I'm like, woo, high five moment, shirt bros, pow, button down bros, where'd you get it? Hey, that's where I got it too. Let's be honest, that was a little, yeah, she's hot, but he's rich. Little shot fired by Peyton now. It's subtle, just a little dig. It was there though. Quote the great Jim Morris Sr., you think you know, you don't know. Believe me. Boston accents are hard. It's hard when you're 6'1" and handsome to be 5'7" and angry. That's my Boston accent. Shrink by 5 inches and just get angry. Say socks and chowder. How about this? Explain this to me. Shia LaBeouf. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Shia LaBeouf?
I don't get it. Why, how's he a star? He's fine. I don't get it. Shia LaBeouf looks small to me. He doesn't fill the screen for me. I like a chin, a tough guy, and something. You know what I mean? Well, look at this, America. Look at these. Come on, here we go, America. Jeans. Look at those.
Those look dirty.
Jeans, 3 days in a row. Nothing's touching. I'm gonna wear these things all week. Take them off when I get home. Get into my sweat. Calories. So I saw this NFL players survey, and we surveyed players, and listen, players play the games, but that doesn't mean players understand how to evaluate players. We see this all the time. We ask players who they think are great players, and you're like, oh boy. A couple years ago, I think it was last year, Kobe Bryant was asked if the Lakers could compete for a championship with Steve Nash and Steve Blake in their backcourt. And he was like, oh yeah, this is a championship roster. I love you, Kobe, but in the West, that's not even a playoff roster. You're just old. You can't be old in the NBA, especially in the West. You can't be old. The league's got too many good young players. There's no hand checking. The minute the NBA took away hand checking, guards took the league over. You can't stop any of them. You can't touch any of them. Michael Jordan used to just put his hand on an NBA player's hip. Now, Jordan also had to play against that defense, which is much tougher than today's defense, but he also had the advantage. He could put a very strong right hand on a player's hip like Stockton, Hornacek, and slow him down. You can't anymore. You can't touch Russell Westbrook. You can't touch Curry. You can't touch Chris Paul. You can't stop them. And, you know, a lot of people prefer the old NBA, and I totally get that. The centers, you know, there was something great about Patrick Ewing facing Olajuwon tonight at the Garden. It was like a heavyweight fight. It was these two legendary Hall of Fame centers. I admit, that NBA was great, but it was also 74-69. There were a lot of free throw shooting contests back in the 1990s that nobody wants to recall. It's revisionist history. So it's too much guards now. It's too much centers then. I'd like somewhere in between. But the battles in the paint, they were fun. I mean, they were great. But it goes back to, you know, players don't really have any idea. I mean, they can watch a player and say he's great, but players tend to be, you know, young. Young people tend to like flash. Andrew Luck, if you ask the players, you know, most of them probably prefer, you know, Kaepernick or Russell Wilson or RG3. I mean, if you asked players a year ago, they were all in on RG3 because he's more fun to watch than Andrew Luck. Well, ESPN.com, NFL Nation, we did a survey. Which player do you respect the most? Peyton Manning won that handily. That's not a surprise, and he should be respected. He's very good. But the other question was, if you had to start a team with one player, who would it be? This is where players are just out in left field. Peyton Manning, who's basically a hit away from retiring, got first, and Tom Brady, who's clearly, you know, on the twilight of his career, was second. Andrew Luck, who is one of the two obvious picks, was second. Aaron Rodgers fourth. So you got it half right. Calvin Johnson got votes. Like a lot of them. This is where players don't have a clue. Think about wide receivers, like swimming pools. Like everybody drives by a house, ooh, swimming pool. Well, you're dependent on where you live. A swimming pool in San Diego is great. A swimming pool in Anchorage, not so much. Swimming pools are largely based on how often you can use them because they're expensive. They don't make a lot of sense in Vermont. They make a lot of sense in Gainesville, Florida. Wide receivers, similarly, are totally dependent, or at least largely dependent, on quarterbacks. This is something that players just can't get their arms around. The 4 best receivers in the league right now are Dez Bryant, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones. None are in the playoffs. Of the top 10 guys statistically in yards, go check out how many are playing right now. Not many. New England doesn't have a star receiver. Either does Seattle. 2 of the 4 teams left. Of the 4 teams remaining, how many star receivers are there? Denver got a bunch of really, really good ones. Thomas for Denver, I think is really good. A-, absolutely. It's all quarterbacks. Brady, Manning, Kaepernick are still remaining. So, I mean, San Francisco, at one point in the season, didn't have really a vertical threat. It wasn't until the last month they even had a vertical threat. They were going to be a playoff team. Seattle didn't have Percy Harvin all year. They got possession receivers. They were the best team in the NFL most of the season. So, if you're building a franchise, you go with a quarterback. Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers. I'd go Luck 1, Aaron Rodgers 2. Flacco's way, way up there. Kaepernick's way, way up there. Not a running back league, and wide receivers are dependent on quarterbacks. And that's another reason why don't listen to players when it comes to talent and talent evaluation. They don't have a clue. They would all draft Johnny Manziel number 1, even if they had a quarterback. They all wanted, they want the flash. They all, by the way, they all love Tebow. They were like, oh, Tebow's franchise.
The politics of moving. Oh, is this message